Ladies and gentlemen, beloved friends, I stand before you today knowing that at some point in all of our lives we faced hurt so deep it feels like it might never fade. It's the kind of pain that lingers long after the event itself, the kind that refuses to be swept under the rug or out of sight. It's the kind of hurt that, no matter how hard we try, seems to echo through every corner of our hearts. The first thing I want to tell you is that acknowledging the pain is the most important step. I know it sounds counterintuitive. We want to move on, to push forward, to act like we're fine. But healing doesn't come from ignoring our wounds. It comes from facing them head on. It comes from saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, I feel this deeply. That's the beginning of the journey. And here's the thing we must remember: hurt is universal. No one is exempt from pain. No one is immune to the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the losses. You are not alone in your pain. There's a shared humanity in suffering. It's part of what connects us all. But even as we acknowledge the hurt, we must also remind ourselves you are not your hurt. Your pain doesn't define who you are. You are whole, you are worthy, you are loved. What you've been through may shape you, but it doesn't make you less than. It doesn't make you broken. One of the hardest things to do when we're in pain is to be compassionate with ourselves. We tend to think we should be over it by now, or we compare our healing to others and feel like we're falling short. But I want you to stop that. Right here, right now. Show yourself the same love, care, and understanding that you would show a dear friend. Let yourself feel what you feel without judgment. Healing takes time, and that's okay. Time, my friends, is a healer. I know it doesn't seem like it sometimes. Time doesn't immediately fix everything. But what time does is create space. Space for reflection. Space for processing. Space for perspective. If you allow it, time will soften the edges of your pain. It will help you see the situation through a new lens, even if it takes longer than you'd like. And let me be clear, healing is not a race. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. The need to fix the hurt immediately can actually prevent you from truly feeling it. Let yourself grieve, let yourself mourn, let yourself sit with the discomfort. There is no timeline for healing. Trust the process. One of the most powerful tools in dealing with hurt is forgiveness, not for the other person necessarily, but for yourself. Forgiveness is about setting yourself free, releasing the burden you've been carrying. It's not about saying what happened is okay. It's about saying, I am willing to let go of the weight of this pain. And in that moment, you will feel lighter. You will feel free. But before we forgive, we must grieve. And here's the thing: we don't move through grief just once. We don't pass through it like a door and then shut it behind us. Grief comes in waves. Sometimes it feels like it's going to overwhelm us, and other times it's barely a whisper. But we must honor it. Let it come, let it be felt, and then let it go when it's ready. And here's the real miracle: in the midst of that pain, there's meaning. Yes, I said it. Pain has a way of teaching us things about ourselves we would never have discovered otherwise. It teaches us resilience, strength, courage, and sometimes even compassion. The hurt that feels like it will never go away may, in the end, show you the most powerful version of yourself. So what do we do when the hurt lingers? We hold on to hope and courage. We remind ourselves that healing is possible, even when it seems impossible. We keep moving forward, not because the pain is gone, but because we trust that there is something better on the other side of it. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward peace. And I want you to remember, just because the hurt doesn't go away immediately doesn't mean it won't heal. It will. You will. This doesn't mean that we have to have all the answers or that we need to immediately know how to fix things. Sometimes the acknowledgement itself is enough. Sometimes the greatest act of healing is simply giving ourselves permission to feel what we feel. We don't need to justify it, explain it, or even understand it completely in the moment. We just need to honor it. By acknowledging our pain, we open the door to healing. When we can finally say, this hurts, we begin the process of allowing the wound to heal. It might take time, and that's okay. Healing is not a linear process, and it's not something that can be rushed. It's a process of accepting the hurt and giving ourselves the space to feel it without judgment or shame. We all have our own timeline for healing, and that's perfectly fine. But it starts with that simple but profound step of saying, this is where I am right now. And let me remind you, acknowledging the pain is not the same as dwelling on it. It's not about becoming stuck in the hurt. It's about being honest with yourself about your experience. When we acknowledge pain, we make space for all the other emotions that come with it: sadness, frustration, anger, confusion. All of them are valid and all of them deserve to be felt and processed. Only by allowing ourselves to feel can we eventually let go of the weight those emotions carry. So the next time you're in the midst of a hurt that seems unrelenting, don't avoid it. Don't bury it under layers of busyness or distractions. Instead, take a deep breath and say to yourself, this is real. This is my truth right now. Acknowledge your pain. And in doing so, you take the first step toward releasing its hold on you. When we're caught in the grip of hurt, it can feel incredibly isolating. It's easy to think that no one else could possibly understand the depth of what we're experiencing, that our pain is uniquely ours to bear. But the truth is, hurt is universal. Every single person on this planet, no matter their background, their story, or their circumstances, has known what it's like to feel deep pain, whether it's the sting of a broken heart, the ache of loss, or the weight of disappointment. There's a certain comfort that can come from recognizing that this experience of pain is shared by others. It doesn't diminish what you're going through, but it helps put it in perspective. The hurt you feel is not a sign of personal failure or weakness. It's part of the human condition. Every one of us at some point will experience loss, betrayal, grief, or some other form of pain. No one escapes it. And it's in that shared experience that we find connection. There's a bond that forms when we recognize that others have walked through the same kinds of storms, even if the details of the storm are different. It's the knowing glance of someone who's been through their own heartache and understands the silent struggle that comes with it. It's the empathy that arises from having been there too. The truth is, hurt has a way of uniting us all. It reminds us of our common humanity. When we see others navigating their own pain, we often feel moved to offer support, a listening ear, or a shoulder to lean on. And when we receive that support, we're reminded that we're not alone. Understanding that hurt is universal also allows us to be more compassionate with ourselves. So often when we're hurting, we beat ourselves up for feeling the way we do, as if it's a flaw or something we should overcome as quickly as possible. But the reality is that pain is not something to be fixed, it's something to be felt. And the fact that it's something everyone experiences should help us take a kinder, gentler approach toward ourselves. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to need time to heal. You're not the only one who feels this way, and you don't have to carry this burden alone. Furthermore, acknowledging that hurt is universal doesn't mean you're somehow less important or your pain is less valid than anyone else's. In fact, it means that your pain matters just as much as anyone else's. It gives you the space to honor what you're going through without feeling like you have to minimize or dismiss it just because others might be suffering too. Your hurt is valid and it deserves to be acknowledged. At the same time, knowing that others have walked similar paths can give us hope. If they can make it through their hurt, so can we. If they can heal, so can we. The universal nature of hurt can also bring about a deep sense of gratitude for those who stand by us in our darkest times. It's in these moments that we come to understand how important it is to lean on others, how healing it can be to have someone walk alongside you. And when you've been through your own pain, you often find yourself more attuned to the needs of others who are suffering. You understand perhaps more deeply than before the power of compassion and connection. And as you heal, you may be able to offer that same kind of support to someone else who needs it. So even though hurt can feel all-consuming at times, take comfort in knowing that it's part of the human experience. You're not alone. Your pain, while deeply personal, connects you to the broader tapestry of humanity. It's in this shared experience that we find our greatest strength, our ability to heal, to empathize, and to support one another through life's most difficult moments. When we're in the midst of deep hurt, it can be easy to believe that the pain defines us, that it becomes the lens through which we see ourselves in the world. We start to identify ourselves by the hurt we're experiencing, as though the pain has become an indelible part of who we are. We might say things like, I am broken, or I'll never be the same, as if the hurt is all there is to our story. But the truth is, you are not your hurt. You are so much more than what has happened to you. Your pain is real and it's valid, but it is just one part of your experience, not the totality of who you are. The hurt you feel today does not define you for all of eternity. You are not your sorrow, your disappointment, or your anger. You are not your grief or your struggles. These are experiences you are going through, but they do not represent your full being. The essence of who you are, the person you've always been and the person you're becoming, is so much larger, so much deeper, and so much more resilient than the pain you carry in this moment. You are not the sum of your failures, your losses, or your disappointments. You are the sum of your strengths, your growth, your resilience, and your capacity for love. The hurt you feel right now may have temporarily clouded your vision, but it does not erase your worth, your potential, or the beauty that resides within you. Your pain is not permanent, and neither are the thoughts, beliefs, or identities you may have adopted as a result of it. Over time, the person you are stronger, wiser, more compassionate will emerge from this experience. You may not see it yet, but you are already beginning to heal, even if you can't feel it in this moment. The journey to healing often involves finding the courage to let go of the identity we've adopted because of our pain. If you have been living with the belief that you are defined by your struggles, it can feel freeing to acknowledge that you are so much more. You are a person who has dreams, who has hope, who has love to give. You are someone who has faced difficulties and survived. And yes, you will continue to face challenges, but that doesn't mean you're doomed to be a victim of your circumstances forever. You can choose to rise from the ashes of your pain and create a new story for yourself, one that is not anchored in what hurt you, but in the strength you found in overcoming it. As you begin to heal, you may discover parts of yourself that had been dormant or forgotten. You may find that you're more compassionate than you once thought, that your capacity for forgiveness is deeper than you ever imagined, or that you're stronger than you gave yourself credit for. You may even find new sources of joy, new passions, or new ways of relating to others that help you step into a new chapter of your life. Remember, your hurt may be a part of your story, but it is not the whole story. It does not dictate your future. You are not your hurt, and you never will be. You are the person who is capable of moving through the hurt, healing from it, and growing stronger because of it. The hurt you're feeling right now is a moment in time, but it does not determine who you are or who you will become. You are so much more than the pain that you carry. And as you step into your healing, you'll find that there's an entire world of possibility waiting for you, just beyond the hurt. Being compassionate with yourself doesn't mean excusing or ignoring the pain. It means acknowledging that you are going through something difficult and allowing yourself to be human in that process. It means recognizing that suffering is a part of life and it's okay to feel it deeply. When we give ourselves permission to feel without shame, we take away the weight of guilt or self-blame that often accompanies pain. You don't have to be fine all the time. You don't have to push through or pretend like everything is okay when it's not. You are allowed to not be okay, and that's more than all right. It's part of being human. Sometimes compassion means giving yourself permission to slow down. It means stepping back from the demands of daily life and creating space for your heart to heal. It might look like taking a moment for quiet reflection, asking for help when you need it, or simply resting when you're exhausted. Self-compassion allows you to honor your limits rather than pushing yourself to keep going when you're not ready. You don't have to have all the answers right now, and you don't need to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to feel like you need time to just breathe. Self-compassion also means forgiving yourself when you fall short of your expectations. It's easy to feel guilty for not being able to bounce back as quickly as we think we should, but there is no right timeline for healing. It's not a race. You are allowed to take the time you need, and that time is not something you should feel ashamed of. Healing happens in its own rhythm, and it's okay if you don't have it all figured out just yet. You don't need to be fixed right away. You are whole, even in your brokenness, and it's okay to be a work in progress. When you practice compassion with yourself, you also allow space for growth. It's through this gentle process that we find deeper understanding and love for ourselves. The more we accept our vulnerability, the more we learn to embrace our own imperfections. Self-compassion allows us to see ourselves not as failures, but as human beings who are worthy of love, respect, and tenderness no matter what we've been through. So in the moments when you're hurting, remember to be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel and release any judgment or pressure to snap out of it. Be patient with your healing and trust that it will come one small step at a time. You are worthy of love and compassion, both from others and from yourself. And when you offer yourself that compassion, you give yourself the gift of peace, acceptance, and a deeper connection to the person you are becoming. When we are in the depths of pain, it can often feel as though we'll never escape it, like the hurt will linger forever, leaving us stuck in its grip. In those moments, time may seem like both an enemy and an unknown companion. But one of the most profound truths about healing is that time has a quiet yet powerful role to play in the process. Time doesn't erase the pain, but it creates the space we need to heal. At the outset, it's hard to believe that anything could ever ease the weight of our hurt. It may feel raw, unrelenting, and too much to bear. In those early days, it's easy to get caught in the belief that we will never feel whole again. The heartache can be so consuming that we wonder how it's possible to ever feel at peace. But over time, without even realizing it, we start to change. Healing isn't a sudden or dramatic shift, it's a gradual unfolding that often happens so slowly that we don't notice it at first. Time allows us to process what we've experienced, to sit with our emotions without being overwhelmed by them. It gives us the distance needed to gain perspective, to see things more clearly, and to understand the situation for what it was rather than what our pain told us it was. When we're in the thick of suffering, it's hard to see anything beyond the hurt. The emotions are too intense, the memories too vivid, and the uncertainty too overwhelming. But with time, we find that those feelings don't carry the same weight. The sharp edges of pain soften, and we begin to move through life again slowly but surely. Time also teaches us that healing doesn't happen on our timetable. We can't rush the process no matter how much we want to. Some wounds take longer to heal than others, and that's okay. There is no one-size-fits-all formula for how long it takes to heal from pain. We might wish we could just snap our fingers and be done with it, but true healing is a journey, and each person moves at their own pace. Time gives us the space to move through the different stages of healing: grief, anger, acceptance, and eventually peace at the pace that feels right for us. Over time, the sharpness of the pain starts to dull. What once felt like a searing wound becomes a memory that no longer cuts as deeply. This doesn't mean that we forget what happened, or that the hurt wasn't real. It simply means that we've given ourselves the time and space to understand the event in a new light, to heal the wounds and begin to live with them. Time allows us to find meaning in the pain, even when we can't see it in the moment. Eventually, what once felt like something that might destroy us can become part of the fabric of who we are, not the whole story, but a chapter that has shaped us in ways we didn't expect. Another beautiful thing that time offers is the ability to restore hope. When we're in the depths of pain, it can feel as though nothing will ever get better. It's hard to imagine a time when we won't feel the weight of the hurt every day. But time gently and persistently restores our faith in the future. Each day we live, each moment we survive, is a reminder that we are moving forward, even if it's in tiny increments. With time, we begin to believe that better days are possible, even if they seem distant. Hope doesn't come in an instant, but over time it begins to emerge quietly and steadily, reminding us that healing is possible and that joy can return to our lives. There's also a subtle magic in the way time allows us to reframe our experiences. When we are in the midst of something painful, it's easy to feel as though it defines us, that it's the defining moment of our lives. But over time, we gain the ability to see things in a broader context. The hurt we felt in the moment may have been excruciating, but in time we start to recognize that we are not defined by a single event or by a single moment of suffering. We are much more than that. Time allows us to remember that our story is bigger than any one chapter, and even the hardest chapters can lead to new beginnings. In the quiet passage of time, we learn how resilient we truly are. We may not feel strong in the middle of the storm, but as time goes on, we realize that we have weathered the storm. The pain we thought would break us didn't. We are still here, we are still standing, and through it all, we are becoming wiser, more compassionate, and more capable of facing whatever life may throw our way. Time allows us to rebuild our strength and our spirit, often in ways we didn't even know were possible. Healing, in many ways, is not a quick fix. It's not something that happens on command, nor is it something that can be rushed. But the healing power of time is undeniable. Time gives us the chance to rest, to reflect, to process, and to renew ourselves. It gives us the distance to view our pain with a clearer heart and a softer mind. Time doesn't promise that the hurt will disappear, but it does promise that we will get through it. It promises that we will emerge from it, not unchanged, but transformed. So even in the moments when time feels like it's moving too slowly, trust that it's doing its work. Trust that little by little, day by day, the pieces of you that were shattered will begin to find their way back together. Trust that healing is happening. Even when you can't see it yet, time, in its quiet way, will bring you the peace you seek. And though it may not be immediate, the gift it offers is worth the wait. When we are in pain, it's only natural to want relief, immediate relief. We want to feel better now, to fix things quickly, to move on from the hurt, as if we can somehow snap our fingers and make everything right again. But healing doesn't work like that. We live in a world where instant gratification is often the norm, where solutions are expected to be quick and easily accessible. But healing, especially emotional healing, is not something that can be rushed. It is a process that takes time, patience, and often a willingness to sit with discomfort for a while. The need for immediate resolution can stem from our desire to regain control. When life feels unpredictable or chaotic, especially when we are hurting, it's easy to feel powerless. The pain can leave us feeling vulnerable, exposed, and uncertain about the future. We crave certainty and we crave closure. But part of the healing process is learning that some things simply cannot be resolved on our terms or within our desired timeline. We must release the expectation that everything can be fixed right now. Instead, embrace the possibility that some things take time to heal. One of the hardest parts of healing is learning how to sit with the discomfort of not having all the answers. It can be incredibly frustrating to feel like we're in limbo, stuck between the pain of what happened and the hope for a better future. We may question why we still feel this way or wonder why we haven't moved on yet. It's easy to become impatient, especially when we want to feel better as quickly as possible. But healing doesn't happen in a neat, tidy way. It's messy and non-linear. It's a journey with ups and downs, twists and turns, and unexpected detours. And sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply be patient with ourselves as we move through it. The need for immediate resolution can also come from a desire to avoid feeling the pain for too long. We might convince ourselves that if we can just move on quickly, we can avoid the discomfort of the emotional struggle. But in reality, rushing through pain doesn't allow us to process it fully. When we try to skip over the necessary steps of grieving, healing, or understanding, we miss the opportunity to truly grow from the experience. The pain, when acknowledged and processed, can teach us important lessons about ourselves, our values, and our capacity to heal. Sometimes the most profound transformations happen not in the resolution of the hurt, but in the way we allow ourselves to experience it. Releasing the need for immediate resolution also means accepting uncertainty. It means acknowledging that not everything has a clear or immediate answer. We might never fully understand why something happened or why we are experiencing the pain we are. The situation may never resolve in a way we expect or hope for. But the truth is, the need for immediate closure often comes from our fear of the unknown. We want certainty because it gives us a sense of security, a sense that everything is somehow okay. But in the absence of that certainty, we can learn to cultivate trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in the process, and trust that we are moving toward healing, even if we can't see the exact path right now. Part of releasing the need for immediate resolution is learning to embrace the present moment, even when it's uncomfortable. It's recognizing that life doesn't always give us the answers we want right away. And that's okay. We can be present with our feelings without needing to fix them, without needing to rush past them. Sometimes the act of simply being with our pain, acknowledging it without judgment, and allowing it to exist in the moment is the most healing thing we can do. In that space, we begin to create room for peace and growth. By releasing the need for immediate resolution, we open ourselves to the possibility of deeper healing. We allow ourselves the grace to heal at our own pace without pressure or judgment. We accept that healing is not something to be rushed or forced. It's a natural unfolding that takes time. We also free ourselves from the idea that healing means fixing everything. Sometimes healing means learning to live with the lessons the pain has taught us. It means embracing the complexity of the human experience, the good and the bad, and trusting that over time we will emerge from the other side stronger, wiser, and more at peace. In the absence of rushing for immediate answers, we also learn the art of surrender. We surrender to the unknown, to the discomfort, and to the uncertainty, we let go of our need to control the process and instead allow it to unfold as it needs to. This act of surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means trusting in the wisdom of time and in our own ability to heal. It means knowing that even if we don't have all the answers now, we will eventually find our way. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, not the person who hurt us. Holding on to grudges, harboring resentment, or continually replaying the hurt can create a prison in our own hearts. It keeps us tethered to the past, constantly reliving the emotions tied to the original pain. Every time we revisit that hurt, it reopens the wound, sometimes even deeper than before. Forgiveness, on the other hand, allows us to let go of the past and take back our power. It allows us to stop letting the actions of others dictate our peace. It's an act of reclaiming our peace of mind, our emotional freedom, and our ability to move forward. Forgiveness doesn't mean we forget what happened or that we let go of the lessons learned from the pain. In fact, forgiveness can coexist with healthy boundaries. We may forgive someone for what they did, but that doesn't mean we allow them to continue to hurt us. Forgiveness is not about making ourselves vulnerable to further harm. It's about releasing the emotional charge we carry around the past. It's about acknowledging the hurt, accepting that it happened, and choosing to not let it control us anymore. One of the hardest parts of forgiveness is the emotional labor it requires. We may not feel ready to forgive, especially if the wound is fresh. The pain is still raw, and the injustice of what happened may feel too great to simply let go. Forgiveness isn't something that can be forced or rushed. It's a process that unfolds in its own time. It may come in waves, or it may not come at all right away. But when we are willing to open ourselves to the possibility of forgiveness, we begin to make space for healing. The role of forgiveness in healing is profound because it shifts our focus from the person who hurt us to our own emotional well-being. Forgiving doesn't mean that what happened was okay, or that we won't still feel the pain. It means we are no longer willing to let that pain dictate our lives. It means we are choosing to heal rather than stay stuck in the past. In some cases, forgiveness is the very act that allows us to release the anger or sadness that has been holding us hostage, even when we thought we were justified in holding on to it. The truth is, when we hold on to anger or resentment, it continues to affect us, sometimes in ways we don't even realize. It may color our relationships, affect our mental health, or prevent us from finding peace. Forgiveness can also be a tool for self-compassion. Often we think of forgiveness as something we offer to others, but we also need to forgive ourselves. In times of hurt, we might feel that we are somehow to blame or that we failed in some way. We may carry guilt or shame, wondering if we could have done something differently. But forgiveness allows us to release these self-imposed burdens. It frees us from the judgment and criticism we place on ourselves, and it opens the door to self-compassion. Just as we would extend forgiveness to a friend or loved one who is suffering, we need to extend that same grace to ourselves. We are not perfect, and we are doing the best we can with what we have in any given moment.